Hello. I'd like to talk to you about kind of an interesting subject I've been thinking about is the future of war with robots. And I know this is going to be kind of for a lot of people, especially that aren't into science fiction. But I think we only call it science fiction because right now it seems impossible, whereas, you know, in the not too distant future, this stuff will be a real issue that we're going to have to explain and talk about. So, uh, first is robots. I'm going to kind of go into talking about robots a little. I'm researching, I find that the Czech word for robot is akin to slave or serf labor. And the fact that you have a machine to do this and the machine is operating independently is kind of a built-on definition to what we now know as automation, as in a robot that would manufacture a part in a plant like a factory. Or nowadays we've got more advanced robots, and you definitely see the military use robots in sniffing out bombs and trying to search for enemy combatants, and these are pretty much just these little miniature tanks that roll around on the ground that have cameras on the top of them. So I got to thinking about robots, and typically people, I think, are especially the people in power, the people that write laws, are adverse to any kind of new technology, and writing a regulation is hard to do. And that's, you look at the internet, it's not that people haven't written laws about how the internet should be governed, but they're very rarely enforced compared to older laws on the books, and the technology is outgrowing the jurisdiction that the state has, or not the jurisdiction, the ability that the state has to get subject people to its rules. So when you do have robots that are being governed, you're going to have, and I do say this is science fiction now, but you're going to have the courts look to precedent. I think you are going to have them adapt the Asimov ruling as the rules, the ethics for robots are: 1. A robot may not injure a human being or through an action allow a human being to be harmed. 2. A robot must obey any orders given to it by a human, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And 3. A robot must protect its own existence as long as protection does not conflict with the first or second law. Now, operating under that assumption, the robots, having a robot army and a robot combatant army, which is what you would need because the robots could not kill humans. So you'd have to have two pretty much superpowers or technological equivalents going to war, and having two teams of robots shoot at each other. And then they can't attack human beings, so then the soldiers would have to go in and terrorize individual villages. But if the soldier's role is, the human soldier's role is to only go into towns and terrorize people, they're going to become pretty quick to go AWOL or find work elsewhere. You have to, in order to keep the military control of human subject to the wars, you gotta encourage that these are the bad guys and these are gonna kill you, they're gonna kill you, and you have to tell people that these terrorists are gonna bomb you, and if you have humans only attacking the innocent once the robots have killed the other robots, then it's going to be really hard to encourage people to kill other people that would not shoot them back, or most likely wouldn't. Now, let's say that these rules aren't followed through, the Asimov rules don't go through, that people use robots to harm other humans. Well, then it's going to be kind of tough, because the military is ultimately too chicken shit to do anything. They're going to worry about a robot malfunctioning, and this is a piece of technology that's new and scary. And soldiers malfunctioning, such as the Fort Hood shootings, or I think his name's Leonard on Full Metal Jacket, those are fewer and far in between. That once you have this psychology, people can manipulate you, but if you have this piece of hardware and equipment, it's a lot harder to get it to control it. And here's another thing to think about, would be that your robot has no emotions or no long-term desires. It only has what you input into it. And humans have these long-term goals and desires. Therefore, court-martialing or punishing a human soldier keeps them enslaved to the military for which they serve, because they can't get out of this system. They can't get out of war. So you have to have them shoot at other people, and you have to have them ordered around, or else you punish them, and this is a loss. There wouldn't be this loss to a robot. The robot would just, perform the slave labor, which it is, after all, a slave. And the military functions on these abusive hierarchies. The robot, there'd be no sense for it to self-preserve in the long term if all it is programming. Now, if you implant artificial intelligence, that just makes it even harder, because this is separate intelligence that would have to be understood and would grow on its own, and the military would have a hard time being able to enlist a device which purposely seeks its own destruction, whereas humans can be lied to and manipulated and shown false virtue in order to get them to destroy other humans. So just some thoughts on that. It's kind of bizarre, I'm sure, to some people at this point, but this is my thoughts on robots, the war, the military, and the future. I've seen some History Channel shows, and they kind of get this idea that robots would shoot other robots, and just seeing Star Wars and the Clone Wars, that droids would go out and shoot. And it just kind of really got me thinking a little bit about the subject, and from where we stand now as to where we could be in the future. Definitely leave a comment. I'm happy to discuss this. This is interesting stuff for me. Take care.